What's up, everybody? We're going live here. We're going live. I want to double check before we start. I always like to double check to make sure that we're actually live and that I'm also not on my personal page because that has happened to many of us. Okay, awesome. So it looks like things are working just fine. Awesome. So how are you guys doing today? I'm sure no one is in yet, but we'll have some more people trickle in here. So my name is Cameron McBeth. If you guys don't know who I am, I do all of the one-on-one consultations here at Dubsado. So if you want to set up a call so you can chat with me to go over anything that you have questions about, that's what I'm in charge of. So today, and the reason we're doing FAQ&As is because what we've noticed here is that a lot of people are asking some of the similar questions on these one-on-one calls. And so I figured what a better way to kind of get the information out to everybody than to do one of these where we have Facebook Live, we can broadcast out to the whole community. And hopefully what ends up happening is some of the knowledge that people are wanting to know on calls can get relayed through here so that you guys don't have to wait for a long time to book a call and some of those questions can get answered. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first question and how the FAQ&As run is I take the questions that get asked the most during my one-on-one calls, and then I go ahead and put those into like a Q&A, frequently asked questions kind of dynamic. So that way questions that often get asked on the calls, we can just relay those on to you guys. So we'll go ahead and get started here. The first thing that we're going to go over, and the first question that I heard the most this week, was what's the difference between leads, jobs, and the address book? How does it all work together? How does it tie in? What's a lead? What's a job? When does that switch get made? So we're going to jump into that right now. So let me share my screen here, and I'll pull this up. There we go. So I made a diagram. It's not pretty. I know that Becca and Biz do the form editing, and they have, they have their style and branding and they make forms look really dope. This is not as dope, but it'll get the job done for learning purposes. So what this is here is it's a little diagram to help you guys understand how the process works when it comes to leads, jobs, address book, how it all functions. So there's two ways to get new people into the system, through the automated way or through a manual way. And we'll first go over the automated way. So anytime that you guys have someone that's coming to your website that's going to be filling out a contact us form or anything like that, it's going to be done with the lead capture form. So you can find that in the form section, and that's the form that can get embedded on your website. So through the lead capture form, whenever a lead capture form is filled out on your website or you're sending them the direct link, so if they open up that in their browser, it fills out the exact same. But whenever they fill that out, it will automatically go into the leads section. Now, leads typically, and this isn't how everybody uses the program, so this is, I would say, a majority of people, but this isn't the only way to use the program. Most people, when they use leads, the leads section is going to be for people who haven't booked yet or aren't ready to work with you yet. So that means that they might not have signed a contract with you, they haven't paid you any money yet. You're still in that communication phase. You're still needing to speak with them on what they're interested in, maybe send them out a proposal. That's going to be where your leads come into play. Jobs, on the other hand, are going to be more of people who are already paid up. They've made a deposit, they've signed a contract with you, they're guaranteed that money is going to be coming in, you're working with them. So that's how you can kind of differentiate between where to group people. So let's just say they fill out a lead capture form. So that's this first thing here. They fill out that on your website. What that's going to do is filter into the leads section. So now you have them in the leads. And there's been a lot of people have asked, okay, so what do we do now? What do we do once they're in the lead section? From that point, we have lead statuses that are up across the top of the leads. And I can actually bring that up for you really quick here. Across the top here, we have lead statuses. And what these are designed for is to take your client, and I'll go back here, is to move your lead through that onboarding process with those lead statuses. So you can use those statuses for anything that you'd like to. Like I said, it's not just a one way on how to use Dubsado. You can use it for anything, but typically when you're moving someone from a lead to a job, this is kind of how you'll go through that process. The lead statuses are going to be the way that you can move them through that process. So if you need to follow up with someone, you can change their status to I need to follow up. If you've already had a consultation with them, you can move them into there. Same if you've already sent out a contract. If they're booked and you need to move them to the job section, you can do that as well. You can kind of create your own funnels to make it work the way that you want it to, taking them through that process. The great part about the lead statuses as well is if you are using a workflow, you can have the workflow move them in between different statuses automatically. So say you've sent out the contract and that's one of your actions. And then the next action is contract sent, and moving them into that lead status change. So that's kind of what those lead statuses are there for on the top. And then, so we'll go back to the beautiful graph that I have, or the beautiful flow chart. And so once you have your leads here and they're not quite booked yet, you're going to move them through that onboarding with those lead statuses and kind of keep them in the same lane. Awesome. Yeah. And so I'm trying to read the comments too as well. In case you guys have questions, I can jump in on those or just say hi, either way. So once you've moved them through those statuses, then once they're ready to actually book with you, you do have the ability to promote leads to jobs in two different ways. And this is where you're going to promote them to a job. So if I'm in the lead section here and I have one of my leads and say, Jane Thomas is ready to go. She said, yep, I'm ready to book. We're ready to make this happen. There's two ways that you can make them go into the job section. The first way is the manual way. So if I go into Jane's project here, and then there's a little down arrow that's next to the job title. By clicking that, you can move her into the job section by clicking promote to job. So if I click that, now Jane Thomas is down here at the bottom. So now she's in my job section. Nothing really changes between the leads and the jobs as far as the emails you've sent them, the forms, contracts, all that stays in place. The project just moves from the leads to the jobs. Can the status movement be automated in a workflow? Yes. So like I just went over that here, but in the lead section, so up here in the workflow, there's an action that says change lead status. So if you're wondering what that one is, that is the ability to be able to move in between each one of these. So after you've done a certain action and you want them to move into another status, you can just use that change lead status action to move them there. So let me go back to the flow chart here. So they're in the leads, you move them through that lead process, and then whenever they're ready to book, you can promote them to a job manually that way, or the other way is if you're utilizing a proposal. Now, if you're using a proposal, and I'll probably do another FAQ&A on this because there's a lot of different information on proposal settings, and so I might do that as a whole nother topic because there's a lot to that. But in the proposal settings, there is a way to convert them into a job automatically. So if you have the contract and the invoice and all of that linked together, you can have them move automatically to a job based off of them completing the proposal, based off of them signing the contract, paying the invoice. So there's a lot of different ways automatically that you can move them if you're using the proposal, but also manually, because some people just want to move them manually. You can do that from going in the project, doing the promote to job. So that's kind of a rundown. And then I'll go to the other side here of my beautiful flow chart. And that is the manual way of doing it. So the automated way, lead capture, we've kind of covered that. The manual way is everything stems from the address book. So the address book is a list of all of your contacts. And if you have those contacts in the address book, you're going to be pulling from those to assign them as a lead or a job. So when you're looking for, okay, well, who's going to be a part of this project, whether they're a lead, whether they're a job, it's all going to stem from the address book. So once they're in there, then when you're creating a new lead, which I'll show you here. So let's say I click add lead, it's going to ask who's going to be assigned to this particular lead, this project or the job, depending upon which one you add. When you click on that, it's literally just going to give me a list of my address book. So that's really where you're getting your clientele from or your contacts from, is from the address book. So if they're in there, you can use them. And what that allows you to do is if you have multiple projects, then you can always use them for another lead, another job, and you can have multiple jobs based out of who you have in your address book. The address book is great too, because within there, if you have subcontractors or anything like that, you can add them in the contact list in the address book, and they're not technically a job, and you can send them things as well, which I'll also go over in another FAQ&A. So much knowledge that we're going to cover. So that's the leads, jobs, and the address book, and kind of how all that ties in together. The next thing that I want to cover is, and let me pull up my my slideshow here, is custom proposals is the next thing that I want to go over. I had a lot of calls this week that went over, or the question was, I do a lot of custom work, and that's usually along the lines of invitation, if you're doing custom invitations, wedding cake designers, let's see, and then there's another one that I had written down too. Oh, event planners as well. Some event planners have different things like, oh, do you want this chair? And then do you want this? And so with custom proposals, there's a way that you can use the proposals without creating 1,001 packages. There's a lot of people that have been asking, okay, well, I have 3,000 different items. I don't want to add all of them in there into the packages section. Please don't, because that will take a lot of time, and you don't necessarily need to do that. Some things you can add in there, but we don't want you to add a 1/4 inch of ribbon, an 1/8 inch of ribbon, a 1/2 inch, as all as different packages, because that just gets way too tedious. So when it comes to custom proposals, I'm going to go into one of the jobs that I have. Now, typically, whenever you have a, if you're going to be doing custom work, normally, and this isn't everybody, but normally there's some type of consultation before you're going to pitch their pricing. You're going to sit down with them, ask them what they're interested in. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll jump into that here, and feel free to ask some questions too after I get done with this. And we can figure out some different ways to do that. So typically you're having some type of consultation, what they're interested in. If it's wedding invitation, do you like this size of car? Do you like this? And so you're going to have an understanding before you actually pitch your pricing on what it is that they're interested in. So what you can do as far as the proposals go, there's two ways. The first way is with a package, a custom package. And that's if you're going into the proposal, and there's also help articles on this portion of it, where you can go in and create a new package on the fly if you want them to select a custom package. But what we're going to go over today is putting the invoice on the proposal. And I'll show you how to do that here. So let's say that you have a consultation with a client and they're interested in a list of items. This is what I really want. What you're going to do from there is you're actually going to do the invoice first before you actually send out the proposal. And how that looks is this. So if I go to my invoices section and I'm inside of a job, the list of the items I have here is everything that the client is interested in. We've already talked, we've already chatted. This is what they are interested in, and this is what I'm writing out my pricing as is this here. What you can do with this now once you're here is actually put this onto a proposal. And I'll show you how to do that. So let me go into my forms, and I have a template already made. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using invoice smart fields to display what you've already put on that invoice onto the proposal for them to okay. So what this allows you to do is not have 1,000 different templates for proposals, because sometimes I've seen people that have, 100 different proposals and they're editing them every single time, which can get so crazy. And your list of forms can be a mile long. So what you want to do is have one proposal template that's just going to display on the proposal whatever's on that invoice. So from here, I put your custom quote, and I use an invoice smart field, and that's going to pull that invoice information and put it on the form. And I'll show you guys what that looks like. And then here I used another one that's going to display the total. And then I also added in some other questions down here, and I'll explain why you can add those in too. But I'm going to go back into the job here. So if I go to jobs, and then I'll go back into my client. So I have my invoice prepared. I want to send them a proposal to pitch what it is that I'm doing for them or what I'm wanting to do for them. So if I go into forms, I'm going to go grab my proposal template since I have the invoice done first. So when I come to my custom proposal, what it's done now is those invoice smart fields that I put on the template have now displayed whatever's on that invoice. So as you can see, everything that I put in that invoice is now just listed out so the client can see, oh, you're going to be doing this and this and this and this and this. Yeah. So it makes it a lot easier that you don't have to go in, and the only customization you're really doing is just the invoice, which you would be doing anyway to have them, select what it is that they want. So now you have your total at the bottom, and what this does is no matter who you send this proposal to, it's just going to look at their particular invoice and display it on there. So one proposal template, you don't have to make 1,000, and you can just have your invoice display on there. There are different invoice smart fields that you can use. I used item names and amounts on mine, and I also use the total. So you can use other ones as well. I think there's just one that it's just item names. If you don't want the amounts to show, some people might need that. So experiment with different smart fields and see what you like on there. But this is kind of the standard way of doing it. So once you have that done, the reason why I have this down here is because of another reason. So some people, they might have met with the client and already know for a fact that this is what they want. So they know there's not going to be any changes. So in that case, you wouldn't necessarily need this at the bottom. This is for people who you're going to be pitching your pricing, but you're not really sure. Oh, actually, my screen just went out. 1 second here. Let me see. I think it stopped sharing. So sorry, guys. I'm going to share my screen one more time here. Let's see. It should pop up. There we go. I think we're back now. Okay, awesome. And so what you can do down here at the bottom is, let's just say that they don't quite know if they're going to be buying it. You don't really know yet. What you can do is you can have this in here for them to say, yes, I'm ready. No, I'm not ready. I still have more questions. I still want to make some adjustments. So when you're sending out these proposals, you already have the invoice done. But if they do have comments or they want to change some things around, you can just invoice, edit it, and then just resend them a new template that has the new invoice on there. So this is more for if people aren't really sure if they're going to buy yet. You're just throwing your pricing out there saying, hey, this is what it costs. Let me know if you're interested. But if you know and sit down in a consultation, this is what they're interested in, then you can just have that display on there. And then if you choose to, you can add the contract and the invoice to go along with it. And essentially they're just going to pay for what you've already done. And you can have your payment schedules on there, all of that. So that is how you can do custom proposals. And it just makes the time go by a lot faster for whenever you're going to be needing to send out something quick. And what's even better with this too is if you are going to have them fill out the proposal and everything on the fly, whenever you are finding out what they're interested in and what they want, you can just do the invoice right there in front of them and then just have that display on the proposal. So if you do in-person stuff, this is also a really great way to just get that through really quickly. They can sign the contract and move through that process. So hopefully that helps you guys out. I know that a couple of you guys have commented, and I'm so happy that this is helping. That's what I'm hoping to accomplish with these FAQ&As, is just to get this information out there for you guys. So that's custom proposals. The next thing that I want to go over is the lead captures and the workflows. So the other question that I get a lot is, if they're on the website, and they're filling out the lead capture, how can I start to get them the correct information? And I'm going to show you a couple ways that lead captures and workflows integrate. So let me back out here, and I'm going to go to my forms and go to the lead capture. So the workflow is essentially going to be how they go through the process with you. So kind of like what we were saying with the leads and moving to a job, it's getting them the correct information that they need. So if they need to get certain emails, if they need to get certain forms, the workflow is going to be sending them that information. So this is a lead capture here. It's pretty basic, but what you can do with the lead capture is, if you have this embedded on your website or you're sending them the direct link, there's two different ways that you can get a workflow to initiate based off of them completing this form. So if I go to edit, and then the first one we'll cover is the settings menu. So in the settings menu, down here at the bottom, actually let me hide that, is default workflow. And what that means is, regardless of who fills it out or what they're interested in, anyone who fills out this lead capture form, this workflow is automatically going to take off, and the same information is going to go out to every single person. So if you're running a business and it doesn't matter who fills out the form, they're all going to get the same information. That's where you're going to want to put your workflow, is in the settings menu, because it will just be the same workflow, and it'll not only create a new lead, but if I go to the lead section, so whenever they fill out the lead capture, they'll go here. But then what happens is whatever workflow you have in that settings menu will automatically get started here. So your emails getting sent, follow-up questionnaire, the way that you move through your process actually gets put within the lead, so you don't have to start it. Oh, awesome. Yeah, so I'll show you that here. So if we go back to the forms, and I'll go back into the lead capture. So underneath the settings menu, so down here where it says default workflow, oh, actually, I think I'm blocking the screen, actually. Let me go full screen here, because it's down in the bottom right-hand corner. Let me go solo and take my face off of here. Oh, and I also have the other things on there. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm struggling with technology today. So, so down here at the bottom where it says default workflow, that's going to be where you can apply whatever workflow template you want to just start right from the beginning. So from here, you have a list of all the different workflows that you've created. So if you have just a general workflow, then you can click it here. Yeah, sorry about that. It was my big face in the bottom corner. So you have your general workflow down here, and that will start everything off for you based off of them completing the lead capture. So that's kind of how you just do just the default one. They all get the same information. Now, some people have a little bit different way of how they want their workflow to generate, and that is off of based off of something that they're interested in. So if they're interested in one thing, you want them to get this information. One thing, you want them to get this other information. So if I click the workflow element, this has a little bit different flavor than the settings menu or the settings one. So if I use the workflow element, it's going to give you a box that says, what service are you interested in? And what happens from there is if I click on this, and you can change obviously what it says, it doesn't have to say that, but based off of a certain answer that they choose, a certain workflow will take off. So here, if I'm a photographer, if they're interested in headshots, I can go and I can find my headshots workflow, and then that information will take off. If they're more interested in weddings, I can go in and find my wedding workflow, and then that one will take off. So if you do have different information that they need to get, you can use the workflow element instead and then have them pick an answer. And one thing I do like to do as well is make it required. So no matter, they have to choose this before they actually complete the lead capture. So if it's required, they'll be forced to choose some type of answer, even if you want an other option, and then they get a general one. You can kind of play around with the different ideas. But that will be how you can implement your lead captures. And what you're trying to think about whenever it comes to workflows is kind of in this lane. You want someone to come get a lead capture, or they fill this out on your website. And from there, the workflows kind of branch out from there. So if you have different areas in your business, this is the best way to do it, to have the workflow kind of take off based off of a service that they're interested in. Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. That's exactly what these are for. And so hopefully this can help you jumpstart getting the lead capture in there and really start grabbing some leads. And what's cool about this is you don't have to worry about them getting wrong information this way, because they're two completely separate, different workflows. All their information can be different emails, different forms, proposals, contracts, you name it. It can all be completely separate, and they'll be on their own. So that's kind of how lead captures and workflows integrate with each other. It all stems from either using the workflow element here, or you can go into the settings menu and you can apply your workflow down here. Now, I will also say this as well. If you do have a general one in here and you have a workflow element going, the workflow element will supersede the one that's in the settings menu. So they won't be getting both. It's set up where the element workflow will take over, and based off of what answer they choose, they'll get that one. So just keep that in mind if you have them in both. And this one isn't required, they would get a general one. So just be careful with that. But other than that, that's really what I wanted to go over today, are those 3 topics. We went over leads and jobs and address book and how all that ties in together. Custom proposals, so you guys aren't doing 1,001 different proposals. You can just have one template, have the invoice display on there. They can say, yep, this looks good, and then you can send it away. And then also the lead captures and workflows. So one thing I do want to encourage you guys to do as well is let me know either in the comments here, or you can just write in the Facebook community. Let me know what you want me to go over in FAQ&As, because I'm assuming that if you have a question on it, then someone else probably does too. And that's what these are for, is just a quick way to get information out to you guys. So if you do have questions that you want to see answered in FAQ&A, either leave a comment here in the live, or you can just write a Facebook comment and just write a post and say, hey, I'd like to see this. And I'll definitely try to include those into future FAQ&As that we do. These are every single week. So if this is your first one, we do this every single week on Thursday at 9:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So next week, we'll be covering a lot of other different information as well. Awesome. So we have a question going back to the custom proposal. If you have this as part of a workflow, do you recommend having the workflow pause and manually add the custom proposal? Yes. So with the proposal or with the workflows, they're typically designed to run automatically if you're sending out a proposal. So if you're using send form and then you have your proposal set up, whenever it gets to that point, it's automatically just going to send out. But what you can do is you can keep that send form in there and have it send automatically. But right before it sends, add a to-do in there to customize the invoice. So that way you have your invoice ready. So when it sends that proposal out, it's just going to read what you just did in that to-do. So if you have send form immediately after previous actions are complete, and that's going to be your proposal, then just have a to-do before that is customize the invoice. So you have to check that off before it sends out that proposal automatically. So that'll probably be the best way to work that into a workflow, is just 2 actions. A to-do to remind yourself to customize the invoice, and then you can have the proposal go out automatically if you want to. Awesome. Yeah. If you have any more questions here, you can feel free to write those in the comments box. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I hope this is great for you guys. I'm so happy that you guys are happy with this, and then this is going to help you guys as business. That's what we're here for. Oh, and also too, I need to mention as well is the one-on-one calls and how you can set those up. So if you do have a question and it's super detailed and you really need to talk on the phone with someone and talk with me about maybe how your workflow needs to get set up, or if you have questions on, a particular thing, feel free to book a call with me. And I'll put that on the screen here. And let me do this as well. So I have that on there. So that is how you can get a hold of me and book a call. It's a 20-minute consultation. We can sit down. It's a screen share. So if you guys want to book a call with me, go ahead and go to that link there. But other than that, I hope you guys have had an awesome time. We are going to do this again next week, covering a different set of topics. And basically, I'm just going to listen to the calls this week, figure out what the best thing is to go over, and then do it again next Thursday. So I hope you guys have an awesome rest of the week. We'll see you again next Thursday. Book a call if you need to. But other than that, have an amazing day. Bye, guys.